and then kind of splice these together to make cooler pants, wider pants, bigger pleats. Hope you're excited. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Rebecca. You can find me on all socials at Rebecca in Europe. And today we are launching a new series that I'm so excited about. It'll be all about upcycling and finding new ways to reinterpret, potentially even like remake some things in our wardrobe that we love, but we just don't wear enough. So I am so excited to get started with this. This particular project is going to tackle how to make wide leg trousers without a pattern, how to make your own pattern, and then make another pair. The trousers in question are these, and I think they look pretty good if I may say so myself. A couple of things came together that finally motivated me to tackle this project. The first was I really wanted a pair of super wide leg trousers. I'll show you some inspiration here, but the only ones I could find were very expensive. Now, if you sew, you know that having a pants pattern that fits you is so incredibly valuable, but I could not seem to find a trouser pattern that had quite wide enough legs. I even looked at drafting my own pattern, even though my skills weren't quite there at the time. But even then, I just wasn't confident that I would get the pants wide enough, as wide as I wanted them, without potentially cutting fabric and having to waste fabric and all of that jazz. So first thing was I wanted a pair of extra wide leg pants, and I wanted to find a way to do it in a way that was easy and would give me a pattern that I could use again. The second thing was I had two pairs of trousers that I wore pretty much interchangeably. I always would grab the orange pair first, and they didn't fit very well. And so by the end of the day, I'd always change into these gray ones because they were more comfortable, but then I was sad because I wanted a pop of color. And neither trouser was exactly what I wanted. So I had two pairs of trousers that were contenders. And then another thing that kind of factored in on top of that when I learned how to tailor is that there's no extra seam allowance in fast fashion, which is really shitty. I couldn't just cut the pants to be bigger. I couldn't expand the seam. The seam was so small that there was just no way to make the pants bigger and to help them fit my body better, which is just, it's reality with fast fashion. Anywhere that you can save any fabric, they will. So I couldn't alter the pants as they were to just fit better on their own. The other thing was, as soon as I had two pairs of pants that I was willing to mess with, that saved me from having to waste fabric as I tried to put these together. What I ended up doing was combining the two pairs into one. I'm going to talk you through how I did that. And I made some fabulous wide leg trousers. I then made a pattern off of those pants, and I'll walk you through that too. And then I made another pair of trousers, ta-da, to test that new pattern and make sure that it worked really well, it fit the way I wanted to, and that I had a pattern that I could use again and again going forward. So here are the second pair of wide leg trousers. I've worn these to fashion weeks. I've worn them everywhere. They're my absolute favorite pair of pants. I'm already ready to make them in potentially another fabric for something even more fabulous and to just keep the epic wide leg pant journey going. How did I turn two pants into one? Imagine, if you will, to have the orange. I think I'm having the center versus, yeah. So if you had the orange in the center, the darker color on the outside, and then kind of splice these together to make cooler pants, wider pants, bigger pleats. Hope you're excited. Really, it was a quite simple sewing project once I got the fit right. So this is something, if you're just getting into sewing, you absolutely can do. But again, remember, save your finishings, reuse them. Do not take apart, like, it's kind of like the measure twice, cut once thing, and that figure out exactly like everything you're going to preserve and only take apart the seams you absolutely have to. Try to preserve as much as possible.
The first step in this process was deconstructing the pants. I took them both apart at the inner thigh and then disconnected the waistband in the front center from both. For the orange pair, I took apart the side seam, but for the gray pair, I just cut around the center zip because I wanted to preserve the pocket. And once that's done, you're already ready to start putting it back together. I then pinned together the outside of the orange front piece with the inside of the gray piece, creating a double width front piece, as you can see in this image here.
Okay, so I have this front piece in the center here, so I can mess around with pleating a bit. I think I like bringing this forward, maybe even a double pleat, so one here and then another. But if I scooted those in a little bit, so trying to replicate that on this side, that would look like something like.
Another thing you'll want to do at this point is determine what part of the hip you want the pants to hit you on. And once you've pleated the pants to the width that you want, you should also be able to get a good indication of what you want your waistband measurement to start to be. The front half of your orange waistband and attach it with just pins to the rest of the gray waistband. Give yourself some extra room and just use pins because we're going to adjust this. Being mindful that this is pinned, we're going to carefully try this back on because as you can see, our goal here is to line up that waistband with the pleat of the corresponding color. Once you've lined those up, before you start permanently attaching anything, it's time to make a pattern. Now we're going to be opening up these pleats and laying this flat in order to draft the pattern. So if you love your pleat placement, now is the time to make sure you save it with a pin on the garment. Now we're simply going to trace the outside of that pant leg, and to make it a little bit more stable, I actually pinned it to my nice wide piece of butcher paper. Then I drew out the flat piece that would become my waistband, using my waistband measurements and giving it just a nice gentle curve using my garment ruler. It's time to put everything back together. We're going to stitch the orange pants to the gray pieces at the inseam as well as at that hidden join in the front, giving you as much fabric as you need to gather in your pleats. I would also recommend doing a single row of stitches across the top of both pieces, as you can see in this video, to hold those pleats in place. This seam will actually get hidden by your waistband, but it'll make that joining process a lot easier. Keep an eye that your pocket is lying flat at this point, and of course, iron all of those finished seams and use a pressing cloth even though I'm not.
Okay, so I've done a lot of work here. We have ironed the pleats. It's a really nice comfy fit. I know it's super baggy, but that was really the intention of getting that really nice wide leg. One of the reasons why I did widen the waistband was so that it could sling a little bit lower on my hips, but then if I wanted to, I could also just hike it up and bring it in and just almost make those like pleats even more dramatic and cool.
And the last steps are to sew down the waistband and hem the pants, as the two different pieces are probably different lengths.
Oh, and I did hem them. Use the hemming foot on your machine. It makes life easier. And then steam them to high heaven and you will be just fine. Or iron.
Here's the part where all of the deconstructing, pinning, and resizing turns into something really special. As you can see, the pattern for these pants flat turned out incredibly large, and I never would have gotten here without the upcycling process, playing around with those two pairs of trousers. To make this final pair of pants, I used a deadstock silk and wool blend fabric that had almost a neoprene-like quality to it. The fabric had so much body that with the same pattern, it only needed one large pleat in the front to give exactly the effect I'd been looking for.
As always, I'm Rebecca. You can find me on all socials at Rebecca in Europe. Want to hear more about my sewing journey, bridging home sewing and high fashion? Check out my podcast, Threaded Together. There's a new episode that launches on the last Tuesday of every month. So depending on when you're watching this, there should be a new one coming to you shortly. And our next episode is actually going to be on Pattern Development 101. And of course, if you make anything inspired by this video, if you make your pair of wide leg trousers, I want to see it. Tag me, let me know. I want to see what you're working on. Thank you so much for watching.